Lifting of the corporate veil means disregarding the corporate personality and looking behind the real person who are in the control of the company. In other words, where a fraudulent and dishonest use is made of the legal entity, the individual concerned will not be allowed to take shelter behind the corporate personality. In this regard, the court will break through the corporate shell and apply the principle of what is known as lifting or piercing through the corporate veil, and why by fiction of law a corporation is a distinct entity, yet in reality it is an association of persons who are in fact the beneficial owner of all the corporate property.
Shahrul Supplier Company Limited is a company that supplies bread and cake ingredients for restaurants and hotels.
Mr. Iskandar is first time came to Shahrul Supplier Company Limited.
Okay, good. Check your resume. Now give you the contract letter. Okay, sign it here.
Restraint of trade clauses are becoming increasingly common in employment contracts. A typical clause will prohibit a former employee from working in a specific area of employment in a specific geographical area for a limited period of time. These clauses are enforced by suing the ex-employee, usually in the employment court. The purpose of the restraint of trade clause is to prevent the employee from the latter using the employer's trade secret or confidential information to aid one of the employer's competitors. After 2 years, Mr. Iskandar is resigned from the company. Mr. Iskandar is planning to open his own company that is also same business with Shahrul Supplier Company Limited. He appointed his sister and his cousin as a director for the new company. His new company is also around the Kedah state too. He is also supplying cakes and bricks to all customers that deal with Shahrul Supplier too. Mr. Iskandar made the customer that deal with Shahrul Supplier. He is promote his new company and offer a better price than the Shahrul Supplier Company Limited.
Mr. Iqbal meet Mr. Daya and discuss about the newly opened company by Mr. Iskandar. Mr. Iskandar welcomes customer who visit his new store. Mr. Iqbal meet Mr. Shahrul as the manager of Shahrul Supply and inform Mr. Shahrul that Mr. Iskandar, his former employee, has opened a new store.
Mr. Sharol is investigating about Mr. Iskandar's new store. After he found out that Mr. Iskandar was his ex-worker, Mr. Sharol was upset because they had an agreement before, but Mr. Iskandar breached his agreement with Sharol Supplier Company Limited. Mr. Sharol decided to take action against Mr. Iskandar by calling his lawyer to proceed with the lawsuit. Sharol met his lawyer at the lawyer's office. Mr. Sharol met his lawyer to discuss about his case, which is Mr. Iskandar, who is his former employee that opened a new store, has stole Mr. Sharol customers away.
The lawyer issued a warning letter to take action again to the Mr. Iskandar. Mr. Iskandar met with the lawyer to discuss that the case was not brought to court. Refer to case Guilford Motor vs. Horn.
Refer to case Guilford Motor Company vs. Horn. No court will lend its aid to a fraudulent scheme. The separate personality of a company has often been used as a cloak to disguise a fraud or to enable a person to evade his legal obligations. In such cases, the court is not obligated to be blind to reality. Thus, if a person uses a company as a device to evade a contractual duty, the court may disregard the company's notional separateness.
In this situation, Mr. Sharol can sue Mr. Iskandar because according to law, Mr. Iskandar already agreed to all rules and regulations of the employment contract that he signed off during the employment. The employment contract provided that he could not solicit the customer of the company. The case was not brought to court because if the case was brought to court, the chances for Mr. Iskandar to bear big loss is high.